Welcome to this week's Good Work Show, everybody. We're excited to bring you some interviews that we did recently.
Yeah, obviously not today.
No,
we didn't do it today.
Not today. But we've been super busy just trying to get you more content, bring you more nonprofits to feature on the show. And so we had an opportunity to get some of our guests in because we were in the studio one day and wanted to make sure that we got them in and got their time. And then now we're back to kind of introduce those folks to you. So it should be a good show. I think it's going to be a lively show because I'm remembering the interview. At least on one of them.
I don't think I'd eaten that day, so,
Yeah.
There were
some issues that we were really connected to.
about, yeah.
Yeah. So first up, we're going to have a good friend of ours, Shane Salter, who is the executive director for March of Dimes in Atlanta. And you probably heard me talk about March of Dimes a little bit on the show. I think I talked about them before.
Probably. Well, we've had in our past lives, we've
yeah.
had Shane on the show in our past experience. So we wanted to make sure we brought him back so that everybody who might not have gotten a chance to hear from him before got a chance, because the work that the March of Dimes is doing is so cool.
Yeah.
And I just still think is really interesting that there is a man who's the executive director of the March of Dimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So right here in Atlanta,
anyway.
Yeah, he is. He and his team are doing lots of things, and I've been connected with him and done some work with the March of Dimes. So that's how I know Shane. But he always comes with a boatload of energy and passion for healthy moms and healthy babies. And so we're not going to steal any of his thunder. But if you thought you were familiar with the March of Dimes, that's cool, but we encourage you to listen to the rest of the show and see what he has to say, because they are working in more spaces than you probably know. And they worked to help eradicate one of the illnesses that was affecting young people and babies decades ago. And they helped to eradicate that. So just think about an organization that helped do that. And then now they're still doing work. Just think what big things they could continue to do if they have the resources. And this is, decades ago. I don't know how long ago that, like
many
40 years ago, not 40 decades, but like 40 years ago. I don't remember when that was. It was like before my time.
Well before. Well, yeah, he'll tell us the story.
He'll tell us the story.
But
yes.
It's interesting. It's one of those rare things. Everybody who works in nonprofits always say, well, our goal, there's like, what's the ultimate goal of your organization? And they say, well, ultimate goal is to work ourselves out of business.
Yeah.
That you solve the problem that you were created for. Well, the March of Dimes is one of those few organizations that actually did that. Like they had a line. They said, this is what we want to do. Mm-hmm. And then they did it. And then they realized, well, we did a good job at that, so now we just do some other
keep
stuff.
Going. Yeah.
So we're going to keep going. But it's interesting, and folks may not know the full backstory of March of Dimes. So we hope that you'll stay connected and keep listening.
But there's lots of ways you can join in too.
Yes.
So if you thought like, oh, I round up at Publix or Kroger or whichever store has, I can't ever keep up, but they both do a great job of supporting, rounding up for something. And so I think March of Dimes has been part of that before. Mm-hmm. But if you're like, oh, that's great, I do that, there are so many other ways you can play, and some of them are super fun. So we'll talk to Shane. We'll learn a lot more about that. But we're going to do that right after the break. And then we're going to bring someone who you met at a United Way event.
Yeah, so this is how we get our guests. We just make people that we know, like, come on the show.
No, that's only part of the way, because sometimes we don't know everybody.
We don't know everybody.
Yeah.
We know a lot of people. We don't know everybody. No, so we're going to have Dr. Bisa Batten Lewis. She, I met her through my training with the United Way with our VIP program. But she is the president of the Black Child Care Development Institute. So, we're going to have Shane here talking about the moms and babies, and then Bisa and her group kind of pick them up a little bit older and kind of shepherd them through the next part of their lives. So she's going to come in and talk about the work that they're doing about families and healthy families here in Atlanta. And actually, the organization is based here in Atlanta and is called the Atlanta chapter or something.
I think the Atlanta
like
affiliate,
but
right?
They serve the entire state of Georgia.
Yes.
So there's resources available all over the place. So we have a very kids and babies and families.
Yeah. But it's not only that; it's for everybody. Because,
it is, yes. But
like, if you were a kid, then it affects you,
right?
So
or if you care about babies,
yeah. If you have a family, or if you have or if you're living in society, you should watch the show.
That's true. If you care about the continuation of the human race, basically, you should care about this because it's babies, and without them,
the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way.
Please don't break out in song.
Oh, I'm not. Trust me. You were never in danger of that.
Okay, good. Please.
Yeah.
I don't know that. You may be able to sing. I have no idea.
Nope. Mm-mm.
Okay.
No. So there's one thing that people need to understand, and a lot of people don't know this, is you have to know your limitations. And I already know that isn't where my strength is. I can talk all day long. No. And talk all day long. I've been all of my career, I've been paid to talk, to communicate.
You're very good at it.
Not to sing. That is not, no, I'm going to leave that up to the professionals who do that. Now, I can tell you if people are not singing well. Now, although my ear may not be good to be able to sing it, when I hear it, and
a lot of people can do that.
When it comes out wrong, I can help identify that.
I don't think that was right.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know what key it was, and I'm not sure what key it wasn't, but it didn't flow.
It wasn't right. I feel like now that we've had the show about babies, now we need to have a show like with puppies.
Oh, well, we could have a.
We haven't had a good animal show in a while.
Yeah, that's true. We should find one. You had the one with the horses. Remember, you should get them back on.
That's true. Though, so my next statement was going to be, now that we have like the video component, then we could like hold the puppy while we talk to them.
No, I don't think that's a great idea.
I don't think we can hold a horse.
I don't think we should bring the dog in here.
Why?
This is not Ed McMahon on the Tonight Show. This is not.
Well,
we're not doing that part.
Why would you not want to have a puppy?
I'm not saying. I'm just saying that's not our lane, though.
But if we're talking about like animal rescue,
I think you should hold up a picture.
But there could be like a sleeping puppy on the table.
How do you know it's gonna stay asleep? There's too many. See, when you add other elements, that's where you got to know your limitations. When you add other elements in here that are uncontrollable.
But it makes it for an exciting show.
We could just, puppy picture. And we can zoom in on it.
I think we need to just take a vote. We should ask folks, would you rather see a slightly possible uncontrolled show with a real puppy or a picture of a puppy?
It might be interesting, but I'm telling you, like, we should just keep it on track.
I just don't think
we should stay in our lane.
Okay,
we should stay in our lane.
Okay, what about a kitten? They don't really make noises.
I don't do cats.
You don't like cats.
So that's over.
We're not going to have birds, obviously.
Because you don't like birds.
Right.
Yeah. A bird is like, you don't control a bird anyway. I mean, unless they're at
that's my point.
The thing where they on your hand and, like the hawks where they fly around. I guess you don't even control those either. But I've seen people have them as pets where they have them on their, they have that glove thing on and they hold them.
No.
I'm not saying I would do it, but I've seen that before.
I mean, I've seen it, but I just don't trust it.
Yeah.
There was actually an article recently that birds are getting more aggressive, and there was a thing, and it was like, you're not
all birds?
All birds. They're like, you're not making it up in your head. There is something going on with the birds and how they are.
Is it like global warming?
It might have been. I didn't read the article because it freaked me out.
But you didn't read the article?
Because when you
that had pictures of the birds? Oh.
See, I don't like that. There was also, I was really mad. CNN, how CNN sends the news alerts?
Yes.
And it pops up on my watch. And there was just something about like the super strain of cockroaches.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah. And the first thing when you open it up was a big roach. I saw that.
But the picture showed up on my watch. So I go and I get this buzz and I turned and I looked at it and there's this giant picture of like a super strain cockroach on my, and I'm like.
Now they need to figure out that problem because if bug spray doesn't work, I'm gonna fire the people who I have spray in my house. I'm gonna need you to figure out what combination of things. Just keep them outside. Like I just need this barrier shield around.
I really do feel like when they're like people that are like, oh, I would survive the apocalypse. I wouldn't, because if I have to fight.
Wait a minute. That means you have to eat the bugs?
I don't know, but if I have to, if I had to go through life like with the idea that being what was left behind were like the roaches that nothing else would kill, I'd want to die too. I just would not want to participate in that life. I just wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't think I would be called to be the last person.
I don't think so.
When
I think
when other people are running, that's your automatic cue to run and go ahead of them. And so if that was running to the danger, because I just wouldn't. I wouldn't be the one to try to try to do it.
I just think about I never watched The Walking Dead because, again, don't like stuff like that. I just don't know that I'd want to live my entire life running from the zombies and trying to scavenge for food. It just seems too hard.
That's not going to be a life, though.
It just seems too hard. It's just like, whatever, let the zombie have me. Whatever's fine.
That's just in somebody's mind. That's never going to happen.
I'm not saying.
I just don't think it's like that. That's
not The Walking
it's just
Dead,
interesting content.
But just in general, or even like
you'll never in danger of that.
Like the Will Smith movie where he was out there and he was like fighting.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
I'm like, I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. I don't think I wouldn't make it. I would not be in the group because I would have given up a long time before that.
There's really no reason after a certain amount of time when you see what's going on around you. You
I'm just like, whatever, take me.
Yeah, you should.
I'm good.
Just, if you can't beat them, join them. That's what you should
when
do.
When the machine uprising happens, I'm with you guys.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fight back.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
Just go with them. Yep. So anyway.
I don't know how we got here.
I don't know. There were some more whale stories, though. I will tell you. I heard on NPR more whale. There was like some beach whales, though, in Georgia.
That.
There was a lot of them.
Saved all the whales.
Yeah. Well, no, but they didn't save all of them.
They didn't save 3, but they were like 30 of them. They didn't. They saved like 90% of the whales.
Yeah, I
Give
mean,
the people their props.
I'm just saying that I was just trying to highlight that we should lament that there were some that didn't.
Animals.
We're not going to bring in a whale, though. I'm just saying that there was a story. We could have a whale
picture, but we could still have a puppy.
I think you should.
We feed
do that
the puppy.
when I'm on vacation.
Maybe we feed the puppy and then he'll be sleepy.
See, now that's the little extra.
Anyway,
you should just get a dog for your house.
No. And on that note, we'll be back right after this with Shane Salter and the March of Dimes.
All right. You're listening to The Good Work Show.
To learn more about the show and how your company can tell their story, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @GoodWorkShow.
Audience, welcome back to The Good Work Show. We're sitting here with
We're so excited.
I know. Like, this guy's got energy overload.
Oh,
like,
my gosh.
And for the organization, that's like super cool because you keep it going. So anyway, without further ado, this is Shane Salter. He is the executive director of March of Dimes right here in Atlanta. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes,
Good to be here with you guys.
I know.
We talk about March of Dimes a lot on the show, and particularly because of the connection that I had, which I'm so thankful for the opportunity to work with March of Dimes. But for those people, and everybody has probably heard of March of Dimes, and maybe you've given to March of Dimes, but if people don't really know what the mission of March of Dimes is and really what you do, but maybe they've contributed maybe at the grocery store, maybe they've rounded up, or maybe they've seen things at the hospital or given in one way or same form or fashion. Tell us all about the organization and what it does.
March of Dimes is an organization that leads the fight for the health of all moms and babies. And what does that really mean? I kind of found a way to kind of bring it home to the average person, right? Mm-hmm. All right, so if you were born and you got whacked on your bottom when you came out the womb, you're a March of Dimes baby.
That's everybody, right?
So that's everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody who was born is a March of Dimes baby. Mm-hmm. If you've taken folic acid in preparation for pregnancy, you're a March of Dimes baby. If you've got your heels stuck, you're a March of Dimes baby. So what we really do is we really do lead lead the fight for the health of all moms and babies.
Fantastic. Ooh. Yeah. And moms and babies are going to continue to be forever.
That's right.
There's always going to be a need.
A mom and a baby.
That's
for
right.
March of Dimes.
Right.
Yeah.
So talk to us about the history of the organization, because, you just talked about some stuff that, everybody has heard about those things, but they do not associate it with the March of Dimes. So talk to us about the history of the organization and then some of those key things that you guys have kind of put into common practice that are just taken for granted at this point, that the organization has been responsible for over the years.
So March of Dimes was started in 1938, and it was really in response to the polio crises. And we had the president at the time, it's a bully using his bully pulpit and calling everybody to send in their dimes so that we could find a cure. And one of the reasons that I like being a part of March of Dimes, and I encourage people to support the organization, is because we're one of those few nonprofits that set out with a mission and we accomplished it. So we set out to find a cure for polio. We found that cure.
Yeah.
And then we pivoted. Once we did that, we could have closed shop and gone away. But then we decided to focus on birth defects and prematurity. And that's how we've evolved to the space that we're in now.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think that's super important, though, that you said that, because there are lots of organizations working, and not that they're not doing a good job in trying to make strides, but March of Dimes, there was a cure for polio.
Yes.
I mean, there was an end to that. And
Yes.
now, but the organization didn't stop there, and they're like, there's so much more to be done.
There is so much more to be done. We are finding that right here in Georgia, while we are a great place, #1 state to do business, we're not a very good state. In fact, we're doing very poorly when it comes to the health and well-being of the moms and babies and around prematurity. It continues to climb and worsen in most areas. So we've got to get ahead of that. So we're beginning now to galvanize and leverage the resources that we have and the voices in the community to bring attention to the fact that moms are dying here post-childbirth in disproportionate rates.
Yeah. And that, boy, some of the stories that March of Dimes has highlighted, some of the ambassadors for the organization, we've heard some of their stories, are remarkably resilient, but at the same time, they are, you can hear, and there may have been things that people could have done or maybe not, but in whether there's new medicine or whether connecting to healthcare, even at all in some cases, because there's some places, if people don't know, there's some places where there isn't a birthing hospital.
That's right. We have almost half the counties. Do you know that in Georgia? We have 159 counties here in Georgia, and about a good half of them are what we would call maternal deserts. And that means that basically the resources are not really there or are inadequate to ensure that people are receiving the kind of care, medical care that they need. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
This day and
so
time?
if you're pregnant somewhere, you have to drive out of your county in some cases to go to just
I feel like
to
this
just
is
have the
about
baby.
to be another soapbox moment for me, because things just make me angry and then I start fussing about it. That's crazy.
It is,
It is
isn't it?
2019.
It's 2019.
I'm like, this is just
So we have to figure out ways that we can engage these moms and get them the resources that they need.
And we don't offer training for other kinds of childbirth either. So even though you may not be able to go, there was a time that, you wouldn't have had a hospital, but there was like a person or a midwife
That's
or
right.
a doula
And
or
there are a
somebody
couple of counties where there's no medical professional at all.
That
It's
is.
this.
It's real.
That's why Shane and his
That's
team
right.
are hard at work.
That's what it is.
Oh my
Very much so.
But this
We're
is the kind of stuff that I mean, we talk about all kinds of stuff, foolishness, all
Yep.
the time,
Yep.
and we have people out here trying to have babies, and you can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so that and you talked about Georgia not being very, very high or at all, really, kind of at the bottom of the list. You guys have a scorecard. So
Yes.
talk to us about the scorecard, because it breaks all of this down.
That's right.
And not just it's Shane Salter and team that are saying it, but that there really is a list,
That's right.
and Georgia's at the bottom.
We're at the bottom. We have a D as a state. So we give a report card each year. It comes out around in November during Prematurity Awareness Month. And Georgia's currently operating with a D, and we are just a couple of points from an F.
Wow.
That's where we are as a state.
Wow.
And we can and must do better, you guys.
Yes.
We can. We just, this is unacceptable. And I am coming from the school of thought that the more we become aware, the better we'll do.
Yeah.
I think that the issue is the conversation hasn't been had in a very real way and around the right peoples who can own it as a community. We've got to own this issue. We've got to decide that this is unacceptable for us, and then hold policymakers accountable and other folks that are providing services accountable to ensure that all the people who need them are getting them.
Yeah. So March of Dimes is not only working in the awareness space, but you also work a little bit in the policy space too, which is super important when we're talking about getting healthcare and access to healthcare to people in our own state who don't have it.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah,
That's right. And so we have folks that work on the advocacy side. So sometimes people will ask you, so what are you doing here? How does March of Dimes show up here? A lot of it is in advocacy. We really try to make sure that the laws that are passed are laws that are favorable to moms and babies, that the resources that are needed for things like collecting data. Do you know we're a couple of years behind on the data to know what's the percentage of moms that are actually dying each year?
Really?
What are really, just to track the data in real time. So we were able to advocate and get funding to have an RFP issued so that we can catch up on at least knowing where are we as a state.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And that's super important because when you talk about the data, that's where you're funding. When you're a nonprofit,
That's right. That's exactly right.
You gotta
That's
have
right.
that data.
That's
so we
right.
can't be behind as a state and then expect for the money to come.
That's absolutely right.
When we don't have the data.
You've got to make
People
the
should be
compelling
really
case.
mad.
Yeah.
She's really angry.
Everybody's a March of Dimes baby. Everybody listening, you know.
Everybody is a March of
It's
Dimes baby.
Just
Yeah.
crazy.
Yes,
that
yes.
For all the focus that we put on a lot of different issues, I think that's just the thing that, you know, we think about here in the state of Georgia. There's been a lot of conversation about a lot of different laws that are passed and a lot of different things, and folks claim to care about some stuff, but then when you start talking about the nuts and bolts of what's really going on, it's not like the two things don't support each other. So, you know, Shane is very important.
And the
People
phone
are
is just
telling
going
him,
off. I forgot to cut off the phone. I'm like, oh, of all the time.
His team is like, we need you.
Oh gosh, I don't know about that, but you know, one of the things that I also that became really clear to me, the reason I put it into context of us, you know, Georgia being the number one state years running now to do business, but then how do we have this as an outcome, right?
Right.
But I think, you know, and we talked about raising awareness. I am absolutely convinced that until we get in front of the right people who understand what the potential economic threat to this from this crisis is, right? Are you going to want to relocate your business to a state that is at the bottom for moms and babies?
That's right.
You
Right.
follow me?
Yep,
So until that starts resonating with all the powers that be, and then when that happens, then we will own it collectively, and that's when we'll have the kind of impact we see.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge point though. And so many companies are coming in and they're bringing, you know, younger talent here, and those
Yes.
people who are here, they're going to want to start families at
That's
some
right.
point.
Yes.
They're not going to want to stay in a state where, especially if they're and talk about trying to get those businesses outside of Metro Atlanta
Absolutely.
even, and trying to grow other parts of the state.
Absolutely.
If you
There's
can't
not a
have
there's not a
That's right.
birthing
basic
hospital there.
right.
that
access
has-
That's right.
to
Yeah.
information,
That's right.
because what family was like, you know, honey, let's move, and you're like, I am not going there.
That's right. That's right.
But that, I mean, it's almost like at some point the way that you would think about moving to a third world country, and you don't want to put it on that same level. But you know, if you were to say, well, we have this great opportunity, I can have a job in this area,
That's right.
and then you start looking at what resources and what is your support network that's there, and some real basic stuff isn't available.
Yeah.
That's
I ain't going there.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And that's going to become very real if we don't get ahead of this. So we've got good healthcare practitioners here. Don't get me wrong. We've got great
Absolutely.
hospitals here. But the fact still remains we're not doing well when it comes to this particular issue.
Yeah.
And it begins with having an honest conversation about it, not running from it, but trying to get our hands behind why. Why is this needle not moving in the way that it should be?
Yep. Yep. So, so we got about a minute left, Shane. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about some of the ways that people can plug into the March of Dimes, because you have opportunities all over the place where people can get involved, where they can, they can donate money, but they can either just support the issue and try to get the word out. So we want to make sure that people understand how they can get involved and where they can plug in. But then I want you to share some of the stories about some of the ambassador families. I think they are the ones that I've heard and the ones recently, and you probably have a bank of them in your mind that are even, even more of them than I've had, but they are so impactful. And what these families have gone through, but they're willing to share their story to raise awareness to get this out. Are so brave of them. But I think it would be great for our listeners to hear some of that. So it really puts it into perspective. We're talking about a lot of things, policy and numbers and money and business. And yeah, that's great. But when it comes down to it, it's about people.
Yes.
And so I want to make sure that we get that across. So stick with us.
Will do.
Stick with us, audience. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. You're listening to The Good Work Show.
To learn more about the show and how your company can tell their story, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @GoodWorkShow.
Audience, we're back on the Good Work Show, and we have been chatting with Shane Salter, who is the executive director of March of Dimes right here in Atlanta. We talked a lot about how the organization was founded, the early history, but then we were digging into, unfortunately, why March of Dimes exists is because the fight for moms and babies is an ongoing fight. And in particular, in our state of Georgia, it's a little bit of an uphill fight, a little bit of uphill battle because we're a little bit behind or a lot behind where we need to be.
Let's not soft pedal this.
We got a
lot of work to do.
We got some work to do in our
do.
state. And so and the work is really about, bringing adequate, even in some cases, some healthcare resources to a lot of people. Half of the counties in our state don't have a birthing hospital, or in some cases, not even access to somebody who can help them to bring a baby healthily into the world. But then also, there's also a level of disproportionality when it comes to who is getting the health care and access to it and who isn't. And so I know that's one of the areas that March of Dimes also focuses on, is that making sure that the health care that does exist is being, it's equitable.
That is very true. And it's and one of the things, in addition to prematurity, because I'm going to share with you, two stories I'll give you real quick. One about prematurity and one about the disproportionate impact on families of color. This one particular brother shares his story about how his wife, they were going to the hospital, and I want to say it was they were about to have their third child. So they'd been through this before. And she goes to the hospital. They're from a prominent family, but because of the bias that they know that we face when we get to the hospital, she makes sure that her clothes are packed. She has the right clothes so they have the right impression of her when she gets to the hospital. Fast forward, she tells after she delivers that she's just not feeling well. Something's not right. And they minimized, overlooked, just told her she's fine. Within hours, she was dead.
Wow.
And why I share that story is because we have to do a better job also of listening to women and not approaching the care that we provide with bias, and an inability to hear. So that's that one story. The other one that's also very moving to me is on a different lens. There's a board member that I work with, and he is the father of 3 children. But 2 of them were lost. They were 3 preemies, and they were two of them were lost, and they were lost based on an infection that back then we couldn't get our hands around as well as we do today. The part that's hard for me to hear, and when I see him get most emotional and choked, is when is the fact that he now knows that because of March of Dimes, if those children were born today, all 3 of them possibly would be here. And based on what took them out of here, the health concerns. So when you think about the value added for March of Dimes, just want you to understand we show up in ways that you may not see directly, but we have all been touched by the research. We have 6 prematurity research centers that are focusing on all the different causes. We just recently announced that we're piloting a device. Can you imagine this? That is almost like an EKG that a woman can now strap around her tummy, and it can monitor the contractions and tell us where the contractions are coming from. So imagine a pacemaker for the uterus.
Wow.
That's sort of the equivalent of it. Because would you believe it that we're still struggling to get our hands around the causes of contractions and where they were coming from, and we were operating with a certain set of information that's now being informed otherwise through the research. Wow. So I'm proud. I'm all over the work that we do at March of Dimes, and proud of the volunteers and all of the community's response to our work.
Yeah, that's super cool. And you talk about technological advances. That is really cool, but it also seems like, well, how come we didn't have that before? I mean, I was listening to a story just yesterday.
Not the whales.
No, it wasn't the whales. It was another one on PR.
But I'm obsessed with this whale story, so I just want to
interesting story. And I hate to say I'm not even interested in whales, but it was very interesting. But anyway, this one was about people using their mind to move things. I mean, this technology is already out there. Wow. So if we're already at that point, how come this is like ground? You know what I mean? Yeah. It really seems like, especially for technology, and there are babies being born every single day. And there will continue to be babies born every single day. Why are we just now getting to the point where we're thinking about the healthcare of moms and babies?
I've already told you.
It's a rhetorical question.
I'm kind of on like 7 right now.
What's your thought about why we're here? I'm just curious.
Rhetorical question, but I know why. But
when did we start having female doctors and people and female researchers and talking about issues? I mean, I'm just saying.
Or getting the data that what is the maternal?
Just to think about like a person, the story about the mother. I think about the story that Serena Williams shared.
Yes. Right.
This is a world class athlete who's done nothing for the last 20 years, has been in tune with her body,
Right.
and she goes in to have a baby, and she's like, "This is an issue I've dealt with before. I am having a problem."
Right.
Wow.
And just being completely like, I have blood clots. I've known that. I've had to deal with it as a part of who I am and what I do.
Right.
But now in the context of having a baby,
right,
her idea are just completely discounted.
That's right.
And it's just like, well, there it is.
You said it right. I think we have to be no longer afraid to talk about or uncomfortable talking about racism. Mm-hmm. We are very comfortable talking about poverty, but we don't. That's just not. We're just not there, and how that shows up systemically. All right.
Yep.
So that's one piece of that. The other piece of it is what I like about the research that we do, the way we do our research. It's really, I'm going to call it, for lack of better words, cross-functional. Scientists are talking to each other in real time as opposed to working in silos.
That's great.
And we've got science, for example, who would have thought that maybe you might want a cardiologist to kind of look at the cervix and think about a device that, you know what I mean? Yeah. So we're getting out the box to really try to find what might be some possible breakthroughs for us.
Yeah. Awesome.
I know.
Yes. This is some good stuff.
Somebody should give me a snack. I'll settle down.
No, but hey, this is what this show is all about. We're bringing the issues to the people and showing them who's actually working on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's lots of ways people can get involved with March of Dimes, like ad nauseum.
So tell us about what are the resources. So whether your mom, your family, you got a baby, you're thinking about having a baby.
Wow. Well, we have the an app too. Actually.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
My NICU app, and it actually gives you all the information you need from to help you through your whole pregnancy if you're thinking about getting pregnant. And it's really a cool app. I would encourage you to download that. You can get it from any of the app stores. Locally, one of the things that we have going on at AMC Wellstar is we have a NICU family specialist there. And that particular resource is put in that NICU to serve those families and help them to navigate through that very scary NICU experience. So that's one of the things that I'm really proud for us to support. In terms of getting involved with March of Dimes, you can go to marchofdimes.org, and on that website, it gives you a whole host of resources and options. You can just type in your zip code, and they'll connect you to, the closest resource for you there. But I'm also really excited to announce that Tatiana Ali will be hosting Unspoken Stories for us, a podcast that you'll be able to find on Apple Podcasts, where we will be capturing what we call unspoken stories. And it's really a place to have conversations about whether it was a healthy pregnancy or one that it was complicated. But for moms and dads, believe it or not, to really be able to engage around this conversation and around this issue that's kind of uncomfortable sometimes for us to talk about.
And I'm glad you brought up dads because, you talked about the first story that you talked about. You have a, husband who lost his wife. And you guys have been doing some work and partnering, and I mean, you're here.
That was a start.
There's number one on getting men involved in this conversation because that's the other half of the equation.
Wow.
That's right.
So
you just gave me goosebumps because one of the things that I consider a blessing is to be in this position and to give voice as a man, and I think it elevates it. Because as long as we're able to keep it in the context of this is a woman's issue,
right.
It's easy to minimize it.
Yep.
Not my
Which
problem.
is why we can move things with our mind.
That's it.
Right.
Absolutely right. But when you hear a man calling, capturing the attention of other men and saying, we have to own this, we have a stake in this also, it elevates the conversation in a way that's very different. And somehow people hear it differently. I'm not quite sure why that is, but they do hear it differently.
Conversation, Shane.
Okay. That's a different show.
I know, right?
That's good work show after hours.
Man. Well, Shane, so you've got walks, you've got events, you've got all kinds of things that people can plug in. Follow March of Dimes on social media. Go on to their website. You can definitely find out more about what the team is doing and how you can get involved. Anything else? Anything coming up? Unspoken Stories, good one. They should definitely tune into the podcast. And kudos to you for getting Tatiana Ali to host it.
Isn't that pretty cool? Isn't that pretty cool?
Yeah.
It's really cool. And then we've got events coming up. We've got on a really exciting event in October called Atlanta Women of Distinction. So if you know a dynamic lady who is making a difference in the community, please go to, you can contact Nina Bell at cbell at marchofdimes.org. That's for Cynthia Bell.
Okay.
Reach out to her if you know it's an extraordinary woman that you would like to nominate. Also, we have Nurse of the Year coming up in November.
Oh, nice.
So if you know a nurse that's made a big difference in your life, and doesn't have to be a maternal child health nurse, although you can do that too, but any nurse, a school nurse that you know has been impactful, consider nominating a nurse and letting them know how much we appreciate the work that they're doing in our community.
Wow, fantastic. Shane, super cool to have you on. You've been on before, but you're just a great wealth of knowledge. The conversation that we had today was, I don't know, hopefully, audience, you enjoyed it as much as we did. But we were digging into lots of issues that I think, it's great that you're tackling it from a lot of different angles.
Yes.
And for an organization to be working in a space where your mission is healthy babies and healthy moms, you are focusing on so many things that are surrounding that. So shout out to you and the March of Dimes team. We got your back over here at the Good Work Show.
Yes, absolutely.
And thanks for the good work that y'all are doing.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Yes, indeed. I hope to be back again.
Yes, you will.
You're listening to The Good Work Show.
To learn more about the show and how your company can tell their story, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @GoodWorkShow.
Audience, welcome back to The Good Work Show. We are excited because we have Dr. Bisa Batten Lewis, who is the president of the Atlanta affiliate for Black Child Care Development Institute. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, so do you like to be called Dr. Lewis? I want to make sure.
Oh, my gosh.
No?
People ask me that. My coin name is Dr. Bisa.
Dr. Bisa. All right. I like it.
That's what people
We're going to
know
go
me
with it, Dr. Bisa. Okay, so tell us about the organization. Tell us about Black Child Care Development Institute and the mission of the organization.
Okay. So Black Child Development Institute is the state affiliate for the National Black Child Development Institute, which is in the D.C. area. There are 30 affiliates around the nation. So we are in Atlanta, but we cover the state of Georgia. Our mission is to enhance and improve the quality of life for Black children and families through education and advocacy. So we have 6 pillars in our work. So we have early care and education, literacy, child health, child welfare. I always feel that one. Family engagement and policy.
Wow.
So those are our 6 pillars. So all of our work fall under those 6.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of work.
Yeah. That's a lot of stuff to do.
Yes.
So talk to us a little bit about the history of the organization and how it came to be. So who said this? We need to do this.
Yes. So Evelyn K. Moore is our founder. She lives in the D.C. area. This is our 49th year as a national organization.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So next year we're celebrating our 50th. We're excited. Hopefully we'll take that back to D.C. With our annual conference. This year we're in Chicago for our national conference. So with the organization, she felt like that we needed an organization that focused on children of color specifically and their families. We have a number of organizations that focus on children and families, but we know there's a difference in what children need who are in the Black community. She started with the Perry Preschool Study. The Perry Preschool Study they followed children, and they're now adults, and they still follow them to study. And this research is used, their learning, the environments, their education, all the way up to now, and how it affected them in the way that they implemented the study. Wow. So it's really cool that that study is one of the 3 key studies in early care and education that's used for Black children. So we have blossomed since then. Our organization in Atlanta started in 1981, so we're excited to be.
Well, I'm sure you're gleaning tons of information, though, from that longitudinal study, and you're talking about the span, but that also spans time, and so you get to, factor in what was going on environmentally that changes, what happens with the people who are in the study. So that's fantastic.
Yes.
So tell us about some of the programming that you have. So you've got something that's called Being Black is Not a Risk Factor program. And so that sounds real interesting. So I know we want to dig into that a little bit. Talk to us about what that means and what's involved in that program.
So Being Black is Not a Risk Factor is our report, an annual report that comes out. Based on where our national conference is, it was based on that particular area. So 2017, our conference was here in Atlanta. So we had the Georgia, Being Black is Not a Risk Factor, Georgia. And what it focuses on is the positive data on Black children. Because we know that most of the all of the studies, honestly, we're at the bottom of every measure. And, there's a need for that when it comes to funding. Most organizations, they use those data, that data to get their funding. But the truth of the matter is that Black children, we do have Black children who do well in science and math, and we want to show that it's not just about the negative, because people need the negative for their own purposes. However, there is positive data on Black children. So based on where our national conference is every year, the study comes out that following year about that particular state and the positive data on children of color.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So Being Black is not a risk factor.
Yeah, so people need to go check that out and kind of see, and see what the factors were. And we're lucky that we're here in Atlanta and Georgia that we have that information for our area. So folks should go check that out and see what all the good news is. We like sharing good news on the Good Work Show.
That's right.
So you also have your Think Babies campaign, and everybody loves a baby. So tell us a little bit about that. You're focusing on infants and their families. So tell us about what is involved in that.
Okay. So we love to take credit for the campaign. We are a partner in the campaign.
Okay.
The campaign is actually an initiative through 0 to 3. It's a national organization as well that focuses on children from ages birth to 3 years of age. So we partner with them to basically have more education out there about the infant mortality rate. I don't know if people realize it, but oh my gosh, a lot of babies don't make it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trauma. There's just so many issues with infant health. So that whole initiative focuses on the young children, the babies, and the toddlers. So we partnered through our national office there, and we had a state summit in March. So that was our focus, was infants and toddlers. So we had 154 people. It was free. Wow. Here at the Lauder Milk Center, sponsored by United Way of Greater Atlanta. Thank you, United Way. Breakfast, lunch. We had 3 rounds of 5 concurrent sessions. So we had 15 concurrent sessions. We had a call to action because it was during the legislative session. We had a keynote speaker. It was an awesome event. And so this year next year to 2 days.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us the dates. How can people plug in and get involved in that event?
Great. So we'll be announcing it soon. Our website is bcdiatlanta.org for Black Child Development Institute. So bcdiatlanta.org. And on our events page, that's where they can find our dates. They can also go on our contact page, and they can sign up for our newsletter. We have a bi-weekly newsletter that comes out, so everything's always there so people can stay posted and plugged in.
Cool.
Yeah. Wow. So what else is going on? So can people get access to the longitudinal study, or is that just for the team and your team to kind of design programming? Is there a pathway so, for folks who are listening and might say, wow, I'd really love to know what they were studying, or is it available even to other organizations who are creating programming, and helping either Black families or Black youth?
Yes, so it's actually, they're all on our website, our national website. So nbcdi.org for the National Black Child Development Institute. It's on the website with the resources and publications. There are also a lot of white papers there. So if anyone needs positive data on children of color, then hey, come to us and it's there.
Okay, fantastic.
So are there I feel like you told me that there was something else going on that I probably forgot to ask you about. So is there something that we missed?
Well, we have.
I do feel like you emailed me something, and I'm like, so I know Bisa from something else, and I feel like you sent me an email that said, "Hey, we're doing this," and then I forgot to write it down. And so, tell me, fill in the blanks.
So with those 6 pillars, we have a number of programs.
Okay.
For the child health, we do have the Good for Me program.
Okay.
And Good for Me, we know in our community, in the Black community, we have high blood pressure, we have diabetes, we have all these medical concerns. So Good for Me shows children through foods It's a comprehensive curriculum.
Okay.
So, in our community, we make it positive. We do like watermelon. We do like sweet potatoes, but we use that to teach them language and math. So, for instance, a watermelon in Chinese is called shigwa. Starts with an X. So we use that to teach them words that begins with X. They get to taste different foods. They get to it's a full curriculum. Why do we use different tools that we use in the Black community? What's the cast iron skillet and why? So we talk about that. And it's a really comprehensive curriculum. So shout out to Walmart Foundation, because the Walmart Foundation funds all the food that we use for that project. We also have the family engagement program, a family empowerment program for our family engagement pillar. So showing Black families how to be empowered in their home. And it's very communal. Why did you name your child this? Tell us about, names have meaning.
Yeah.
So it's a full curriculum for family engagement. So shout out to UPS Foundation, the national funding for that.
Thank you to all of every nonprofit.
It can't be done without the partners.
No.
Right? You have to have these
Every
partners to do the
nonprofit
work.
knows you need our good corporate funders and partners that are out there.
Yes. Yeah, so we want to thank everyone. We have a lot of national partners, so that money gets filtered down to us. Actually, the Gates Foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, gave us money as well for family empowerment programs. So we're so thankful.
Yeah. So where do people come for the programming? Like if they're in Atlanta and they're listening and they say, wow, this would be really good. I'd love to, I have a childcare facility or I have a school or I just have children in my family that I think could benefit from this, or I, could benefit from this. How do they get involved and get in some of the family development things that you're working on?
In an effort to work through, to have long relationships with families, we like to have partners. So whether it's DFACs or a school system or child care centers, we want to make sure we're working with those parents, and maybe not just on one program, maybe on family engagement and the Good For Me program. So we work through programs. So if anyone's interested in partnering with us on any of those initiatives, again, the contact page on our website, let us know, because we're always looking for partners to support the families.
Wow. And this is across the state, because even though it says Atlanta, this is the full state of Georgia.
It is the full state of Georgia.
Fantastic. We got about a minute and a half left. Tell us a little bit about yourself, because you are leading the charge here in Atlanta. Tell us about that and how you connect with the national organization.
Okay, so I'm one of the 30 presidents. I've been a president for a year. I was vice president for 4 years. Grew up here in Georgia, in Albany, Georgia. Who's at Albany?
Right.
I'm from Albany.
Yes.
In the Benny Ben, huh?
Yes. And I love it. I went to Albany State University. I went to Georgia, go Dogs.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
I know both of those schools real well. All right.
Yeah. So my background is early childhood education and adult education. So I primarily train adults how to work with children. And so I do training, consulting, write a little, and just do a variety of things. I've been an educator from first grade on up to the college level. So I teach part-time at Mercer University. Okay. So I do a lot of different things in the community and, pushing the mission forward.
Well, we're glad you are. And audience, please make sure you go to bcdiatlanta.org to get all the information. Tap into the study. I think that's, and the information that you have there.
And we are a membership organization.
Okay.
So we have a membership goal of 600 this year, 600 new members. Yep. So you can join for $40, or if you're a student anywhere, if you're a graduate student or undergrad student, it's $25.
Fantastic. Well, I'm so glad that you mentioned that too, because that is a key factor. And for the organization to continue to do this work, continue to look for the statistics, the research, you'll have to have the money. So thank you so much, Dr. Bisa, for coming by. We appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're listening to The Good Work Show.